We're over halfway into the season of Traitors, and so far, this cast refuses to have a chill round. Last time, Jonathan received the role of nurse, which would allow him to save 3 additional people from the following murder. However, the catch was that he had to keep it a secret, otherwise he'd be automatically banished. With him finding it hard to keep it a secret, he warned Amira about the twist, which later got to Emma, who became enraged. At the round table discussion, many people called out Jonathan for what he told Amira, and Emma pressured him the most as she felt betrayed by him. In the end, Jonathan exposed the twist in front of everyone, causing this banishment to cancel as Jonathan automatically eliminated himself from the game. Who will be the next player murdered? Will everyone survive because of Sasha's shield? Inside the breakfast room, Emma is already seated, reflecting on what happened yesterday. She starts singing Houdini by Dua Lipa to herself and then gets up to dance. In confessional, Emma says that she has to get loose sometimes after stressful situations. She had a rough sleep last night, so she wants to come into this day feeling brand new. This obviously does not mean she feels bad for Jonathan. She feels like her rage was justified. Back inside, Yasu comes in next, witnessing Emma dance, and he cheers her on. Emma laughs and says she was in her own world, and in Yasu's confessional, he jokes that Emma is always in her own world. Everything has to go the Emma way, and yesterday proved that to anybody who did not realize. At the moment, he doesn't feel like Emma is a traitor. She's instead a goofy faithful, so he wants her to know that going forward. Back inside, Yasu and Emma sit down, and Yasu lets Emma know that he trusts her as a faithful. Emma nods and says she can't say the same about him, in which Yasu sighs in response. Emma then says she just doesn't get why him and Sasha are still alive as a duo. In fact, that goes for every duo and trio in here. She doesn't get why Alessandro, Danielle, and Chris are still alive as an example. Yasu then asks about her and Penelope then, and Emma shrugs and says neither of them hide behind the shadows unlike everyone else. They are the realest two in here, hence why they are attracted to each other. Yasu then says that he's still super suspicious of Christephanie, so anyone who defends her is also suspicious. That can include Nita, Danielle, and Alessandro, since all 3 refused to vote for her. The breakfast room door then opens, and in comes Penelope, who cheers when she sees Emma still alive. Emma goes to hug Penelope, telling her she's unbelievably happy to see her. In confessional, Penelope sits in silence with a smile on her face, and she begins to sniffle. She says there's no words to describe how amazing of a human Emma is. Their friendship is strong, and it will always remain strong. Neither of them have doubts in each other, which is something that keeps them together. Anytime you lose trust in your friend, that's no longer your friend. She will always put her friend ahead of the game. Yesterday was such an emotional day for both of them, but they always had each other's support. Back inside, Olivia comes in next, followed by Darren, Christephanie, Darla. As Darla sits down, Emma asks Yasu if he noticed the room smell a little trashier all of a sudden, but Yasu is confused by Emma's joke. In confessional, Emma says that she cannot respect Darla in the game. She also can't respect Darla as a human being. All Darla does is claim how loyal she is and how faithful she is in the game and outside of the game, but she's neither of those things. She purposely acts as the devil to piss her and Penelope off, and it's sickening to experience. Back in the room, Darla says that she feels like the game is starting to wrap up because these traitors are struggling, and Emma says that they already know she's struggling. Darren then publicly asks Emma if she thinks Darla is a traitor, and Emma says of course. In confessional, Darla rolls her eyes, claiming that she's trying to have a proper morning, but Emma always infiltrates that. She personally doesn't have a problem with Emma, but when Emma starts acting like a mean person, that's when the problem forms. If she could, she would get the votes against Emma, but there are still many people who are actually suspicious in the game, one of them being Nita. Back inside, Nita enters the room next, and following her is Danielle. Darren then confirms to the rest that it's down to Sasha, Alessandro, and Amira yet to come in. Danielle says that it's possible one of them have a shield, so she asks everyone in the room if anybody wants to come out with their shield now. Nobody comes out with a shield, so Danielle says that they can safely assume one of those three yet to enter have it. Nita says she personally feels like Sasha has it, considering how intelligent she is. Darren says that the other possibility is a traitor has it but won't come out with that information. In confessional, Darren says that he already has Nita and Christephanie as his top two suspects, but now he has a third that he's starting to think could be a more likely traitor than Christephanie. He's talking about Danielle. Danielle is a very smart woman, and after yesterday's trivia challenge, he actually assumed Danielle would have won it based on how much memory was required for the challenge. He's just surprised that she isn't coming out with a shield. That could be a hint that she wants to hide her intelligence to avoid the spotlight as much as she can. Back inside, everyone hears a knock at the door, and in comes Sasha. Olivia then gasps as it's down to Alessandro and Amira. Sasha sits down and asks if anyone in this room has the shield, but Danielle confirms that nobody came out with it yet. They all assumed she or Alessandro have it. Sasha shakes her head and says she didn't get it. In confessional, Sasha says she obviously has yesterday's shield from the trivia challenge, but she's not going to come out with that information. The last thing she needs is for the traitors to lock in and murder her for being way too intelligent. If her accusations against Christephanie are right, adding how intelligent she is can make things worse for her. Back in the room, Penelope says that Amira was likely killed because she was one of the three people unable to win a shield. Yasu breathes out and says he's glad him and Emma survived through it, but he feels bad for Amira at the same time. Emma calls the traitors weak if they actually killed Amira. Suddenly, everyone hears footsteps by the door, and Emma repeats Alessandro's name over and over, confident it's him. Darla covers her face, saying she really wants Amira to walk in. Then, Amira is the one to walk in last, and everyone is in complete shock, yet also pretty happy for Amira. Amira asks if she's the last one to come in, and Danielle confirms that Alessandro was murdered. Darren says it's still possible he has the shield, and Danielle says she forgot about that possibility. Darren publicly calls that odd, considering they all just said they hoped him or Sasha had the shield when it was down to them and Amira yet to come in. Danielle shrugs and says she's just used to murders occurring since it's rare for the shield to ever work. Christephanie also adds that Danielle was teasing Alessandro a bit because both of them know he's not that smart of a player. Olivia sighs and says she hopes Alessandro surprises them all and walks in, considering nobody has come out yet with the shield. Emma finds it weird, considering how someone would have come out with the shield by now. It's a guarantee someone has it. Darren says he thinks a traitor has it, and Penelope backs that claim. In confessional, Christephanie says she has no clue who holds the shield. Was it really Alessandro? Or maybe a faithful is hiding their shield. Or maybe Olivia has it and is hiding it from both herself and Nita since they don't have much trust with one another. It's a bit scary to think about it because that just means these faithful are smarter than she assumed. They are gaming like never before. A lot of time has passed by in the breakfast room, and Alessandro was nowhere to be seen, essentially confirming he was murdered. In a flashback, Alessandro sits in the confessional room, bummed to find out he was murdered. He says that his strategy this season was to be more under the radar since playing the leader role he played in Teams at War did not help him. Right now, he's definitely growing suspicious of Christephanie because she would be the one to murder him before Danielle. He'd be shocked if Danielle ended up as a traitor because he fully trusted her all season. The players now have some time to hold chats with one another before the next Faithful Crown ceremony, and in the breakfast room, Darren quickly chats with Sasha and Yasu, letting them know of his suspicion of Danielle. There's something that doesn't feel right about her. Sasha asks Darren to clarify, and he says that he feels like she's a traitor hiding her shield. If nobody came out with the shield today, it only means one thing: the traitors have it. Yasu says he originally thought Sasha had the shield, but now he really thinks Danielle could have it since Sasha claims she doesn't have it. In confessional, Sasha says that she really wanted to hold this shield as a secret from everyone else because she doesn't want to reveal how smart she is, but now it seems she has to reveal it to Darren and Yasu at the very least. She doesn't want Darren to look dumb for targeting Danielle over a shield that she doesn't have. Sasha then tells Darren and Yasu that she actually has the shield and she hid it from everyone because she doesn't want the traitors to know about it. Darren asks if she's serious, and Sasha says she is. Darren then exhales and says she's relieved now because he really thought a traitor would have it. Sasha says she's still keeping Danielle on her radar though, since Alessandro getting murdered feels more like a personal murder rather than strategic one. Darren agrees and says the men were kind of after each other as they all assumed one of them were a traitor, hence why Jonathan was the target yesterday. So killing Alessandro just feels odd. Yasu says that he really thinks the last two traitors are women, and himself and Darren are faithful. Sasha says she only trusts this group of three, so they all lock in their final three alliance. In another room, Christephanie, Danielle, and Darla chat, and Darla asks the women if they are surprised by Alessandro's murder. Danielle surprisingly says she's shocked by it because if anything, it just confirms Yasu and Darren's innocence now. She truly thinks the last 1 to 2 traitors are women. Christephanie agrees with that theory, and in her confessional, Christephanie laughs to herself because part of her decision to murder Alessandro last night was personal. She just wanted to get back at Alessandro for being a horrible ex-boyfriend. Maybe horrible is a tough word to use because he's not the worst of the worst, but he was still pretty bad. He presents himself differently on TV than in real life. The confessional session then cuts to Christephanie asking if she's even allowed to say this on TV right now, and she laughs to herself. Back inside, Danielle says that although it feels like a time loop, she has to vote for Nita tonight. It's ridiculous how far she got without getting voted out. Darla says that Nita is also her top suspect, considering what happened during the Pablo elimination. Christephanie chimes in though, reminding the women that Olivia was also part of that elimination. If anything, Nita's vote was more obvious to everyone than Olivia's. Olivia felt more random. Darla says she can see what she means, but part of her would rather just get Nita out of the way before she gets too far and starts her own underdog army of sorts. In confessional, Danielle breathes out because she wants to vote out Christephanie tonight. It's becoming more and more evident that Christephanie is a traitor, and this latest murder proves that. It felt like a personal move than a strategic one, and Christephanie is the only one who fits that description. She'll have to make her move tonight and ensure people follow her with the banishment of Christephanie. Meanwhile, Amira and Emma chat about their personal lives, and Emma asks Amira if she ever considered the fact that she'll be more popular coming out of this experience. Amira says she knew what would likely happen to her if she competed on this show. She'd risk losing her job, and quite honestly, she doesn't care about fame. If she cared about fame, she would try being the main character. In confessional, Amira confirms that coming on to Traitors was a tough decision for her initially. She really likes the show and the gameplay within it, but she did not want to expose herself in an already stressful environment. Her past isn't cute at all. She grew up living a life that she doesn't wish upon any other kid. She doesn't want to specify what happened to her when she was younger, but all she hopes is to be an inspirational figure to other women. Amira then tells Emma that she's just really glad she's part of this experience because she never would have met such awesome people. Especially the women who have been fighters day after day. Emma says she too likes a lot of people in here, though not everyone of course. However, she likes her and Penelope the most in here and hopes the three of them can make something happen. Amira confirms that she has no issue going to the end with them since she truly believes they can be the group of faithful who win this game. Later on, Olivia chats with Darren and Penelope, telling them that she personally feels like Christephanie or Nita have to go tonight. They have been huge suspects in the past, and neither have been voted out yet. Penelope says she feels like people are underestimating Darla a lot. People keep forgetting she got votes from both Haley and James, who were both traitors. Not to mention, she was part of the reason Pablo went home as well during the traitor twist round. Darren then says that he's leaning more towards Kristefany and Danielle, since one of them would be more likely to murder someone like Alessandro at this stage of the game. It doesn't make sense why a guy was murdered if all three guys were suspected by everyone not too long ago. In confessional, Olivia says that she might have to target Kristefany for tonight's banishment. She needs to clear her own name right now, and getting out Kristefany can help her achieve that. After that, Nita has nowhere else to go and will be banished right afterwards. She wants to be the sole traitor because she has no other choice. She can't allow Nita and Kristefany to continue playing this game since both will do their best to take her out. Penelope then says that she still thinks Darla will get her vote tonight, but they are all allowed to vote differently if they'd like. She wants to have a good voting record by only voting for traitors all season long. The only time she was wrong was with Cassandra on the first banishment, but it's still very possible Kristefany, Nita, and Darla are all traitors. Darren says he thinks it's only 2 traitors, hence why he believes it's one of Chris or Danielle, and then of course, Nita as the other. In confessional, Darren says that he's going to push and pressure Danielle and Kristefany tonight. Whoever has a weaker defense will get his vote. He's pretty confident one of them killed Alessandro at this point, so he wants to get to the bottom of this and find out which person did it. It's now time we get to the next Faithful Crown ceremony, so everyone gathers in the courtyard. This Faithful Crown ceremony format is going back to the usual, meaning anyone who wants to sacrifice their vote for a chance at the shield may do so. Before the countdown begins, Emma publicly says that she wants this shield for herself because she was played yesterday by someone she really trusted. She suggests everyone else keeps their vote or else she'll have problems with them. Many people make a confused face, and in confessional, Danielle says that Emma's self-awareness is on vacation this season. Her social skills are just horrendous this season, and it keeps getting worse each and every day. In another confessional with Sasha, she says that Emma probably feels a bit exhausted from this experience, so she doesn't blame her for acting a bit like a lunatic. Then, in Darla's confessional, she calls Emma the worst faithful in Traitors history. Finally, in Darren's confessional, he says that although him and Yasu can be seen as very obvious faithful, nobody really vocalized that yet apart from the two of them and Sasha. He wants to keep his vote for tonight since the numbers are very low, and people might not want to take a shot at Kristefany or Danielle. Back outside, the countdown for the Shield nominations begin, and Emma is the only one to stand up. Emma cheers and starts dancing, singing Houdini by Dua Lipa just like this morning. Everyone claps for her, except for Darla, who just looks at her nails in annoyance. In confessional, Emma says that people are truly underestimating her influential abilities. She not only influenced Jonathan to quit yesterday, but she also just won herself a shield today after telling everyone else to remain seated. She doesn't call herself the queen of the castle for nothing. With nightfall slowly approaching, the players have a banishment to get to. We will go from 11 players to just 10 after this next vote, and with a possible murder coming up, the faithful could still lose a bunch of numbers if they start messing up these banishments. Everyone is now seated in the banishment room, and as a reminder, everyone but Emma will vote tonight. With that, Nita begins the discussion by telling everyone she wants to play a little game before they start officially discussing. She wants to go around the table and have each person name someone they distrust the most. No explanation needed. She can start off, and she'll say she trusts Olivia the least. Danielle then goes next and says she trusts Kristefany the least, in which Kristefany then stares at Danielle in shock, and Darla drops her jaw in shock. Kristefany is left speechless, and Nita asks her if she wants to go next. Kristefany says she doesn't know what to say after hearing this from Danielle, so she'll just say her name back as her least trusted. Danielle says she can explain why, but Nita cuts in and says she really wants them to finish up this game, so she asks if Darren can go now. Darren then says he trusts Danielle the least as well. Danielle smirks in response, and then Olivia goes next. She says she trusts Nita the least. Emma is next and she says she distrusts Darla the most. Darla tells Emma to be more original, and Emma tells Darla she'll gladly pass on some tissues for her tears since she clearly can't take an accusation seriously. Nita then cuts in again, telling everyone if they can just do this game without any explanations yet, but Emma tells Nita her game is stupid. It's not revealing anything new. Nita then gives up and says she doesn't care about the game now. Sasha then tells Nita that she gets where she's coming from with this game, but it's pretty obvious who each person is gunning for at this point. A lot of people are against her and Christephanie for the most part tonight. Christephanie then says that she feels ganged up on, especially after hearing who Danielle trusts the least. Danielle then explains that she has been suspicious for a while now. There are just so many things stacked against her day after day, and so she never really trusted her to begin with. Things became very clear after Alessandro's murder. Darren then cuts in, telling Danielle that in all fairness, the Alessandro kill could have come from either of the two of them. Both of them have a relationship of sorts with Alessandro, and both have the biggest motive to murder him at this point. They are at a critical stage where the traitors have to murder strategically. In his own eyes, this previous murder just proves the traitors thought with their emotions. Danielle then says that she has done less suspicious things than Christephanie this season, so in her eyes, it makes more logical sense to assume it's Chris who murdered Alessandro. She has more motivation to kill Alessandro. Christephanie then asks Danielle if she ever let a vote off before, and Danielle says she has tried to many times. She then asks the same question back to her, and Christephanie says that she most definitely did. In fact, one of those times was when James got taken out. She specifically told Danielle that she wanted James out, and Danielle followed with the plan. Danielle immediately calls that a lie and says she never had influence from her. Amira then makes a point that Christephanie technically voted out two traitors while Danielle only voted out James. In fact, since Haley's vote off was near the beginning, the traitors had a less likely chance of voting her out. Going back to Jeff's banishment, she noted down in her notebook back in her room who voted for Haley that night. Darla, Darren, Sasha, Yasu, and then Kira who was murdered. What that proves to her is that the four of them that are still alive are likely faithful. Then, going to the second banishment, Christephanie voted Haley, while Danielle voted Nita. Considering Nita and Danielle never fought or had drama, she'd like to think they are either both faithful or on opposing factions. The only way they will know is if they test things out tonight and vote either Nita or Danielle out. Danielle then asks Amira if she's implying she's voting for her tonight, but Amira says she's leaning more towards Nita, only because Nita has been a major suspect for a while now. Darla then says that she's just a little bit confused by Danielle's sudden switch-up on Christephanie. The three of them had great chats with one another, and suddenly she flipped. Danielle explains that she needed to save her accusations until now so Christephanie wouldn't have time to talk with anyone else. That's all it was. Darren then says that he's just stuck on this whole Alessandro murder situation. It had to have been one of Danielle or Christephanie. Danielle then says she'll gladly vote for Christephanie tonight, if that wasn't obvious already. Olivia then says that to her, Christephanie and Nita have been top suspects for a while, so she doesn't understand why they are keeping them around. Nita rolls her eyes and says she already heard this story 100 times. Penelope calls Nita a sweetheart and then tells her to suck it up because it's her fault for being mentioned 100 times. Yasu then speaks up to make it clear that for him, Christephanie is a more likely traitor candidate over anyone else. He just recalls the time when Christephanie snapped at Sasha in the second round table when her name came up so suddenly. The reaction just felt more raw than how she usually acts. Christephanie then cuts Yasu off, asking him what the difference is between her quote-unquote raw reactions and her quote-unquote natural reactions. Yasu then says that her face looks the same every round table, even when accused these last few days. The only time he noticed a change in her facial expressions was the time her name came up for the first time. Christephanie says she'll say this one more time. It's a normal reaction to feel pressured when your name comes up for the first time, even as faithful. Perhaps he doesn't know that because his name never came up this season as a suspect. The time for chatting is now up. It's time for the players to vote to banish, and as a reminder, Emma isn't voting tonight. In confessional, Christephanie says that she was just betrayed by Olivia the other day, and now she's being betrayed by Danielle. It sucks to be in her own position right now because there are hardly any escape routes anymore. In another confessional, Yasu says that he just doesn't see how Christephanie is faithful. For the longest time, he knew she was a traitor. It just sucks how she's a reality star, so most other stars refuse to take a shot at her. At least Danielle is respectable for finally turning on her. With everyone finished voting, it's time to reveal the votes one at a time. We will begin with Penelope tonight. Penelope then flips her slate to show Nita's name on it. She says that Nita has been the most suspicious since day one, and her little game she created just proves that she's trying to swing people's minds into other directions. Yasu is asked to go next, and he says that he's voting someone who has consistently acted differently from other presumed faithful. This person also had a lot of good points brought up against them tonight, so he's voting for Christephanie tonight. We're now at 1 vote Christephanie and 1 vote Nita. Darla goes next, and she breathes out as she shows her vote for Danielle. She tells Danielle that she can't trust her after this sudden switch-up on Christephanie. She showed no warning signs of that previously, so it just feels so out of the bloom. Nita is asked to go next, so she shows her vote for Olivia. It's simply just a back and forth between the two of them, so she'd rather vote for someone who is a clear traitor, especially after what happened with the Pablo blindside. Danielle goes next, so she shows her vote for Christephanie. She says that Christephanie has always acted weird and she kept that to herself to reveal it at the perfect moment. They always had private chats with one another, and Christephanie always made sure to make it a point that she disliked Alessandro so much, to the point where she would even make little remarks about how she would love for Alessandro to be murdered. Christephanie is then asked to go next, and she shows her vote for Danielle, calling her a massive snake. This is why she lost teams at war. Danielle then looks back at Christephanie and claps back, telling her she too lost teams at war, so she shouldn't bring up losing if she's a loser herself. Darren then goes next, and he says he sadly voted for Danielle tonight because to him, it's between Christephanie and Danielle for this previous murder. He just feels like Danielle would be a great traitor, and her voting record just shows him that she's less consistent in voting out traitors than Christephanie. We're now at 3 votes for Danielle, 2 votes for Christephanie, 1 vote for Nita, and 1 vote for Olivia. Olivia is asked to show her vote next, so she shows her vote for Nita. She already made it clear she trusted Nita the least in here, so it makes no sense to vote anybody else right now. Sasha is asked to go next, and she says that there's someone in here she tried getting out many times before, but has failed to do so. She hopes tonight is the night they finally go so that the faithful can finally see her true role. She shows her vote for Christephanie. The vote count is now at 3 votes Danielle, 3 votes Christephanie, 2 votes Nita, and 1 vote Olivia. Amira is the final vote of the night. If she votes Danielle or Christephanie, they will go home. If not, we will have a tie. With that, Amira is asked to show her vote to everyone, and she breathes out intensely. She tells everyone that she weighed up her options tonight, which were basically the top 3 vote-getters tonight. If she could, she would vote out all 3 because if anything, it just seems like a traitor war to her between those 3. With all of this in mind, she decided to vote the person who seemed to have less suspicions of Haley and James, and someone who has tried accusing people who seem pretty faithful to her. Her vote goes to Danielle. With 4 votes, Danielle has been banished from the castle. Everyone is tense after this close vote, and Danielle gets up to head to the front. Yasu shakes his head and tells Penelope he thinks Amira and Darren screwed this up, and Penelope shrugs and says they all could have just voted Nita to take her down. Christephanie looks down, feeling awful right now. Danielle then stands at the front, facing the rest of the players. She sighs and says she had a great time playing this game. She feels like she was taken out of teams at war too soon, so getting the opportunity to redeem herself on a show like Traitors is a huge blessing to her. Being voted out tonight is a little disappointing to her, considering how the faithful are keeping the same people around who have been accused round after round. She hopes things will pick right back up for her team. She reveals her role as faithful. Everyone in the room sighs, and Darren puts his head down in disappointment. Danielle then heads out of the room, and Amira covers her face, telling Sasha she feels so guilty now for screwing this up. Christephanie then says she can't believe this and then walks out of the room, telling everyone that she's being set up so well by the traitors and needs to have some time to herself now. Once she leaves, Yasu immediately calls out that she looks way more guilty now with Danielle revealed as faithful. Sasha slowly nods and Darren says it's pretty clear who killed Alessandro now. He just wishes they got the actual traitor before brutally voting out the actual faithful. Penelope then says she's genuinely disturbed by how dysfunctional this group of faithful is. For whatever reason, they all refuse to vote together. Emma says they are just full of different opinions, and that's what's affecting this team negatively. In confessional, Penelope says that this faithful team needs to change up their strategy. Clearly, voting as individuals isn't working for them. The same 2 people getting accused are staying round after round because the same few people keep voting incorrectly. It's very annoying how Nita and Christephanie are still in this game, all because some faithful just refuse to vote for one of them. In another confessional, Sasha says that she actually wouldn't be surprised if the last 2 traitors voted for Danielle tonight to ensure Christephanie would stay. Of course, Chris is one of them, and the other traitor could be Darla. Or perhaps, there are 3 traitors now after the recruitment, meaning Darla could be the recruitment since she technically voted Chris before. But, after that, she never voted for her. As for who this 3rd possible traitor could be, it could be Nita, but it also could be Amira. She has been floating around from side to side, always trying her best to remain neutral in these banishments. In fact, she only remained seated at 2 faithful crown ceremonies so far, meaning she willingly sacrificed her vote 3 times. That to her is very weird. After the banishment of yet another faithful, things aren't looking too hot for them as they are most definitely going to be down to 6 faithful after tonight's murder. In the courtyard, Sasha rallies up a group of people, including Yasu, Amira, and Darren. In confessional, Sasha says that her best play right now as a faithful is to rally the 3 people who voted for Haley during the first banishment along with herself, and ensure they vote together moving forward to avoid these situations where they split the vote up and Christephanie and Nita end up staying. Plus, Amira is someone she feels suspicious of, so Amira will know not to murder her, Yasu, and Darren going forward, which is extra protection for them. Sasha then tells the group that they need to stop playing sloppily and start voting as a unit. Amira agrees and says she doesn't want to do what she did tonight ever again. She can see how important it is to vote as a united group. Yasu says that they need to get Christephanie out tomorrow, and Darren agrees. In confessional, Darren says that Christephanie will be toast tomorrow because everyone knows it's her now. She murdered Alessandro based on emotions. There really wasn't a good reason to murder him from a game stance. Amira then says that as long as the 4 of them and Penelope stay alive, the numbers for Christephanie to go are there. Emma and Penelope will likely vote Nita, but that's enough of a split vote to take out Chris with 4 of their own votes. In confessional, Amira says that she trusts Sasha, Yasu, Darren, Emma, and Penelope the most in here. Nita, Chris, Olivia, and Darla are the only 4 people she can't get a read on. Hopefully starting tomorrow, they will be picked off one after the other and the faithful will finally get back on their feet. Meanwhile, Olivia chats with Emma and Penelope, telling them how annoying it is that Nita is still here. Emma laughs and welcomes her to their world. They've always tried taking her out, but people don't have brains in here. In confessional, Olivia says that she truly thought Nita was going home tonight, so seeing Danielle go instead was a huge shock to her. It sucks that both of her traitor teammates are still here because it gives them the opportunity to throw more shade towards her. She needs to make sure she's on Emma's good side because this lady could have so much power going forward. She has Penelope as a puppet of hers, and she already hates Darla's gut. Going into tonight's murder, she needs to make sure Emma, Penelope, and Darla all stay alive in order for her own endgame to also survive. Penelope then tells Olivia that she's willing to just flip her vote to Chris tomorrow night if people like Sasha and Yasu refuse to vote Nita again. At least she's flipping her vote onto another suspicious person who has a lot of evidence against them. Emma rolls her eyes and says she'd much rather just vote Nita first and then vote Darla, but it's whatever at this point. With nighttime finally here, the players must begin heading to bed, so they say their goodbyes to one another as one of them will most definitely be murdered, thanks to Emma's public shield. In Yasu's confessional, he says that it's imperative his trusted group stays alive for tomorrow's banishment to work out. It'll be tough though because himself and Sasha are huge threats for this upcoming murder. Maybe even Darren since he's one of 2 men remaining, and people are starting to assume the last few traitors are built up of women. Now that all the faithful are in bed, the 3 traitors meet up in the turret and remove their hoodies. Christephanie laughs to herself and tells Olivia that there truly is no way of rebuilding trust. Olivia says she's pretty certain they established this before, so there's no point in her even trying to vote with them again. Nita says she's disappointed, but it is what it is. She won't take it personally and will instead play just as dirty as her. Christephanie then tells Nita that the 2 of them control the majority in this turret, so they don't need to consider Olivia's opinion tonight if they don't want to. Olivia smirks in response, and Nita says she's down to be the only 2 deciders tonight. Olivia says she doesn't mind because she doesn't have full-on loyalty with anyone as of now. Nita then goes into this murder decision, reminding Christephanie that they can't murder Emma, and they of course cannot murder Olivia, even though she'd like to. Christephanie then makes the first suggestion, that being Sasha. They know she doesn't have the shield tonight and she's clocking her as a traitor round after round. This is the 4th time she voted her and it's getting ridiculous. Nita says that she can see how that helps them out going forward since that's reducing one number that's guaranteed to be against her. However, she also wants to be mindful of who can control this group of faithful the most, and Sasha has never gotten her way with the banishments. The person who usually gets their way as someone people have underestimated all season is Amira. If they murder Amira, that's one less influential person. Christephanie doesn't like that idea though, claiming that there are many people against the 2 of them solely. At least Amira's flexibility can potentially help them out. She feels like Penelope would be a better kill than Amira, considering how she's only focused on the 2 of them and no one else. The other 2 options she is also considering right now are the last 2 guys in here, those being Darren and Yasu. Both of them will fly through to the endgame if they aren't murdered since people are starting to think the traitors are solely women. Nita finds this intriguing and says she's cool with the options they have so far. They'll either murder Sasha, Penelope, Darren, or Yasu. Christephanie and Nita then vote for one of them to be murdered, meaning Olivia automatically has to agree to the murder choice. They throw the murder scroll down the hole ahead, locking in their next kill.